Today we are going to layer salt in what I think is going to be a very interesting deviled egg. Now for these deviled eggs, we obviously need a bunch of soft boiled eggs, and for this I am using the pinhole method for my eggs to make sure I get a really nice peeled egg out of this. Now to do this, you can just use a safety pin or a needle. You just want to make sure you puncture a small enough hole to where water can go into the shell as it's boiling, and you don't really need a giant hole, otherwise you're just going to end up with egg in your water and nobody wants that. Now after you've punctured all of your eggs, gently place them down into a large pot of boiling water. Use a slotted spoon or a strainer to help you do this. Now boil those for around 6.5 to 7 minutes depending on your preference, and make sure you have a bowl of ice water ready to immediately dunk these into that ice water as soon as that timer is up. We're going to let this sit for around 15 to 20 minutes until they are totally cooled down. Don't touch them, leave them alone, and walk away. Now after they have fully cooled down after that 15 to 20 minutes or so, I did assess the damage and I found that some of my eggs did end up breaking, probably because of a soft shell or whatever the case is, but we were able to salvage quite a few of them. Make sure you do get each and every one of these peeled. I like to sometimes use a large spoon to help me crack the shells, so that way I'm not smashing it against the cutting board, and you'll end up with these really nice peeled eggs. If you're cool like June over at June's Kitchen, you can use the water and the cup method. I don't know how he does that. Just get your eggs peeled. After peeling up all of your eggs, grab a bit of red miso. I'm using some really nice locally made organic red miso for this, and it has this really beautiful salty nuttiness behind it that I can't explain. It's just really nice miso. Now lay down a small amount of plastic wrap onto your cutting board and then a big old spoonful of your red miso directly on top of that plastic. Spread this out until it's around 1/8 of an inch thick, and then place an egg on top of it. Realize you need more miso to make sure you get full coverage of this egg. Try not to use too much red miso because it is expensive, I'm not gonna lie, and just use just enough to make sure you cover the egg with a small layer of red miso. Gently bring the plastic together and softly, gently, ever so gently, bring that miso together around the egg, making sure you don't press too hard, otherwise you're just going to explode the yolk on the inside. After you've fully covered the egg with the red miso, tie off your bit of plastic, making sure it is tight but not too snug, because again, you don't want to rupture that egg in the middle. This is what your miso egg should start to look like once you have everything wrapped up. Now I only wrapped up 2 more eggs, giving me a total of 3 miso eggs, just because I didn't want to use all of my red miso, but if you want to, go for it. After you get your eggs rolled up, place this into the fridge for a minimum of 4 hours, but I'm just gonna go for 24 hours and see what happens because that's what we do here. Now it is the next day, as you can see by my shirt change, and these eggs are ready to be revealed from their miso shell. Gently remove the miso from the egg and you can see the discoloration of the egg. It is pulled some of that miso straight into the egg white because the egg white is porous, so keep that in mind. This is the same thing that happens when you're making ramen eggs. But now we have these really cool miso eggs that you could just eat like this after you give them a rinse because they are going to be salty. You can see how firm they become after sitting in the miso because the salt does start to cure them. That leftover miso you can save for soups or more eggs later. Now we have our 3, you're almost gonna lose those, dude, be careful. Now we have our 3 eggs that we are going to cut in half because we have to see what the inside looks like. Upon cutting them, they do feel so much more firm than they did before, and that is because the miso has started to cure the egg yolk. You can see that it has firmed up the egg yolk and the egg white, almost making them spongy in texture. Now split all of your eggs in half or just eat them like this, totally up to you if you want to skip this next part, but I don't think you should because this next part is so good. Remove all the egg yolks from the egg, making sure you are very careful because of the cured egg yolk. The cured egg yolk is somewhat difficult to remove, and you don't want to be too forceful with it, otherwise you're going to end up breaking your egg white. You can see how jammy this egg yolk is from all of that miso and all the salt. After you've removed all of the egg yolks and placed them into a bowl, this is where we get a little creative. We're going to hit this with a touch of Kewpie mayo, a splash of yuzu, which is very important, do not skip the acid, a few cranks of black pepper, and then a shot of smoked soy sauce. This is where the layering of salt comes through. You're gonna have some saltiness from the Kewpie and some saltiness from the smoked shoyu. The smoked shoyu is really nice, but if you just have regular soy sauce, just use that instead. Just make sure not to use a ton of soy in this because it is going to be salty. After you've mixed everything together into this creamy, eggy, beautiful mess, this is when we're going to refill our eggs with this new filling. This is a deviled egg like I've never made before, and I will say it has become one of my favorite deviled eggs. After you've filled all of them, you can see how beautiful the yolk is now. It's smooth, it's creamy, it's beautiful and delicious. And after plating them up on your plate of choice, this is where I want to garnish them with whatever you want, but I'm using togarashi. Togarashi is going to add a touch of spice to it, but feel free to just use more black pepper or just some black sesame seeds. And there they are, my miso deviled eggs. There it is, guys, the miso deviled egg. This is something I've never tried before, and I was watching Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, and I just ordered the book as well because I think there's a lot of information behind that, and I was inspired to make this, and I really think that the curing process is really what interests me the most. I'm really excited for the flavors behind this because that red miso is so good, so here we go. Look at it, look at it. Cheers. This is amazing. The layers of salt from both, not only the red miso, but the smoked soy sauce plays so well together, and then you get the acidic content of the yuzu, which is really, it's making me want to constantly eat more. Like, my mouth is watering after one bite. My mouth is watering after eating it. You don't have that happen often. And then you have the small bit of spice from the togarashi. It's creamy, it's still firm with the egg white. This is the perfect snack. I have nothing else to say. You should make this. Let me know if you do down below. My name is Chefpk. Get subscribed. Remember, keep playing with your food, because then you make weird stuff like this, and this is just... I'm only gonna have one more half, because I am on a diet. Rachel can have the other two.